Dr. Ryan Cole walked through the curved hallways of Harmony Ring, carrying a box of rocks from Earth. The orbital station floated above the peaceful planet Viridian, and sunlight streamed through the large windows that lined every corridor. Students from dozens of different species hurried past him, their various forms of movement creating a strange symphony of sounds. Some walked on two legs like him, others floated, and a few skittered on multiple limbs across the walls. Ryan smiled at them all. This was his first day teaching at Galactic Nexus University, and he could barely contain his excitement. Back on Earth, he had spent years studying volcanoes in Hawaii and Iceland, sometimes getting close enough to feel the heat on his face. Now he would share that passion with alien students who had never seen a volcano in person. His classroom sat at the end of a long corridor. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a large space with curved walls and adjustable seating that could accommodate different body types. Students were already filing in, chattering in various languages that his translator implant converted to English in his mind. A small, furry student with long ears and bright eyes took a seat in the front row. She looked nervous, her nose twitching constantly. Ryan recognized her species from his briefing materials as Quiller, known for their sensitive hearing and cautious nature. Her name tag read Pris. Behind her sat a being made entirely of translucent crystals that refracted light in beautiful patterns. Bront, a Mogar, according to his file. Their species thought in pure logic and mathematics, finding comfort in predictable patterns. Near the back, a bird-like student with colorful feathers arranged herself on a specially designed perch. Dira, an Ashani whose people could fly in suitable atmospheres but preferred to save their energy in space stations. Ryan set his box down on the desk with a heavy thunk. Several students jumped at the sound. "Good morning, everyone," he said, his voice warm and friendly. "I'm Dr. Ryan Cole, but you can call me Ryan if you want. I'm here to teach you about planetary geological systems, and we're going to have an amazing semester together." Pris raised a small, furry paw. "Professor Cole, I read your file last night. It says you have climbed into active volcanic craters on Earth. Is that true?" "Absolutely," Ryan said, grinning. "Best way to study them up close. The smell of sulfur, the heat, the sound of the Earth moving beneath your feet. Nothing beats direct observation." The crystals making up Bront's body flickered in what Ryan's cultural training suggested was alarm. "You approached active geological hazards? Voluntarily?" "Well, yes. How else would I learn about them?" Dira's feathers ruffled. "On my world, we use remote sensors and computer simulations. We would never risk approaching such dangerous phenomena." Ryan leaned against his desk. "That's one way to do it, sure. But there's something about experiencing geology firsthand that simulations can't capture. The way pressure builds, the chemical reactions, the sheer power of the planet expressing itself. That's what I want to share with you this semester." He pulled out a tablet and projected an image onto the wall behind him. It showed a massive volcano erupting, lava fountaining into the sky while Ryan stood in the foreground wearing protective gear and giving a thumbs up to the camera. Half the class gasped. Pris's ears flattened against her head. "This is Mount Kilauea on Earth," Ryan explained. "Beautiful, isn't it?" "This was during my doctoral research. The eruption lasted for weeks and I camped nearby the entire time." "You camped next to an erupting volcano?" Bront asked, his voice rising in pitch despite his logical nature. "Sure did. Best research of my life." The door to the classroom opened, and a tall, slender figure entered. Dean Valaris, the university administrator, moved with the fluid grace of his amphibious Sithari species. His large eyes fixed on Ryan with unmistakable concern. "Dr. Cole, might I have a word with you? Students, please begin reading Chapter 1 of your textbooks." In the hallway, Dean Valaris folded his long fingers together. "Dr. Cole, I've received several messages from students already. They are concerned about your teaching methods." "It's only been 10 minutes, Ryan said, surprised. "Your file mentions hands-on learning and experiential education. I need to understand what that means in practical terms." Ryan shrugged. "I believe students learn best by doing, not just reading. This semester, I'm planning a major project where the class will build and observe a functioning volcano model." Dean Valaris's skin changed from blue to a pale green, which Ryan's briefing had taught him indicated stress in Sithari. "A functioning volcano? Dr. Cole, volcanoes are considered extreme hazards. They exist only on deathworlds like Earth. Most of our students come from tectonically stable planets." "Exactly why they need to see one," Ryan said. "Even if it's just a model." Understanding geological processes is crucial for any planetary scientist. I must insist on reviewing your safety protocols before any such demonstration. Of course. I'll send them to you by tomorrow. Trust me, Dean, I've done this demonstration dozens of times. It's completely safe. Dean Valeris did not look convinced, but he nodded slowly. Very well. But I will be monitoring your class closely, Dr. Cole. Student safety is my primary concern. Back in the classroom, Ryan found his students huddled together, speaking in urgent whispers. They fell silent when he entered. All right, let's talk about what we'll be doing this semester, Ryan said cheerfully. He pulled up a new image showing a detailed cross-section of a volcano. We're going to explore plate tectonics, magma formation, eruption dynamics, and pyroclastic flows. And in 6 weeks, we'll build our own working volcano model right here on the station. Pris's paw shot up again. Will it be dangerous? Not at all, Ryan assured her. Just educational and exciting. You'll love it. The small furry student did not look reassured. Neither did most of the class. As the lesson continued, Ryan noticed students sending messages on their personal devices. He caught glimpses of the texts through his peripheral vision. Words like dangerous, Deathworld, and transfer request appeared frequently. He sighed internally but kept his enthusiastic demeanor. They would understand soon enough. Once they saw the beauty and power of geological processes up close, their fear would transform into wonder. It always did. At least it always had with human students. He hoped alien students would react the same way. 3 weeks passed and Ryan's classroom had become a place of nervous energy. His students arrived each day wondering what strange Earth concept their human professor would introduce next. So far they had studied tectonic plate movement, magma composition, and various types of volcanic eruptions. Ryan discussed these topics with the casual tone someone might use to describe clouds or rain. Pris sat in her usual front row seat, her furry paws clutching a data pad filled with notes. Despite her constant nervousness, she had not dropped the class. Something about Ryan's genuine enthusiasm kept her coming back, even though every lecture made her ears twitch with anxiety. Today we're going to talk about pyroclastic flows, Ryan said, pulling up a video of a massive cloud of ash and rock racing down a mountainside at terrifying speed. These are currents of hot gas and volcanic matter that can reach temperatures of 1,000 degrees Celsius and speeds of 700 kilometers per hour. Dira's feathers stood straight up. And you have witnessed these personally? Twice, Ryan said with a grin. From a safe distance, of course. Well, relatively safe. The sound is incredible, like thunder that doesn't stop. Brant's crystalline structure flickered rapidly, his species equivalent of shaking his head in disbelief. Your planet seems designed to eliminate its inhabitants. Earth keeps us on our toes, Ryan admitted. But that's what makes it interesting. After class, Ryan headed to the university's supply depot. He had submitted his materials request the previous week. And today he would pick up everything needed for the volcano demonstration. The supply officer, a cautious Drellin named Morvis, greeted him with obvious concern. Drellin looked like walking plants with bark-like skin and leaves that rustled when they moved. Dr. Cole, Morvis said, his voice resembling wind through branches. I need to discuss your order. Is there a problem? Ryan asked. You have requested large quantities of ammonium dichromate, magnesium strips, potassium nitrate, and various other chemicals. Also, heat-resistant materials and a portable containment dome. Morvis's leaves rustled anxiously. This combination is highly unusual for educational purposes. It's for a demonstration, Ryan explained. We're building a chemical volcano to show students how volcanic processes work. A chemical volcano? Morvis's bark-like face showed confusion. You intend to create an artificial eruption? Exactly. It's a standard teaching tool on Earth. Kids make them for science projects all the time. Children handle these materials on Earth? Starting around age 10, yeah. With supervision, obviously. Morvis stood silent for a long moment, his leaves completely still. Dr. Cole, I must report this to Dean Valeris. The chemicals you have requested could produce significant heat and combustion reactions. That's the point, Ryan said patiently. Don't worry, I know exactly what I'm doing. An hour later, Ryan found himself in Dean Valeris's office again. The amphibious administrator looked even more stressed than before. His skin showing patches of pale green and yellow. Dr. Cole, please explain why you need materials that could simulate a volcanic eruption. Ryan sat down and opened his tablet. showing the dean a video from Earth. Children stood around a cone-shaped structure made of clay. An adult poured chemicals into the top, and moments later orange foam erupted from the cone, flowing down its sides while the children cheered. "This is what we're going to do," Ryan said. "It's a safe, controlled demonstration that shows the basic principles of volcanic activity. The reaction produces heat and light, simulating real lava flow. It looks dramatic, but it's completely harmless." "This is performed by children on Earth?" Dean Valeris asked weakly. "All the time. It's one of the most popular science fair projects." The dean watched the video again, focusing on the children's excited faces. "Your species allows juveniles to handle combustible materials? We teach them to respect the materials while using them safely. That's how humans learn. We don't just read about fire. We learn to make it, control it, and use it properly." Dean Valeris's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a resigned blue. "Very well. I will approve this demonstration, but I require extensive safety measures. Protective barriers, fire suppression systems, medical staff on standby, and emergency evacuation protocols." "Sure," Ryan agreed easily. "Whatever makes everyone comfortable. Though honestly, the biggest danger is probably someone getting startled and bumping into something. I will also require you to conduct this demonstration in the large observation dome. It has the best ventilation and safety systems." "Perfect. That'll give everyone a great view." Ryan left the meeting with approval for his project and a long list of safety requirements. He did not mind the extra precautions. If they made his students feel safer, that was fine with him. Back in class the next day, Ryan announced the location and date for their volcano demonstration. "We'll be using the observation dome in 2 weeks. I'll need volunteers to help with setup." Not a single paw, claw, or appendage went up. "Come on," Ryan encouraged. "It'll be fun," Pris spoke up, her voice small. "Professor Cole, I have been researching Earth's geological history. Your planet has over 1,500 active volcanoes. Eruptions have destroyed entire cities. How can you call this fun?" "Because understanding something takes away its power to scare you," Ryan said gently. "Yes, volcanoes can be dangerous, but they're also natural processes that we can study and predict. Once you see how they work, they become less frightening and more fascinating." Dira tilted her head, her feathers smoothing slightly. "You truly believe this will help us learn?" "I know it will. Trust me." That evening, Ryan worked late in his office, preparing the materials and double-checking his calculations. He had performed this demonstration hundreds of times on Earth without incident. The reaction was dramatic but controlled, producing impressive visual effects without actual danger. His door chimed and Bront entered, his crystalline body refracting the office lights into rainbow patterns across the walls. "Professor Cole, I have analyzed the chemical equations you provided in class. The reaction should produce approximately 600 degrees Celsius of heat, correct?" "Give or take," Ryan confirmed. "And you have been within range of such temperatures?" "Bront, I once stood 3 meters from flowing lava that was over 1,000 degrees. The gear protected me fine." Bront's crystals flickered in that way that suggested deep thought. "I find your species' relationship with danger fascinating. You do not seem to fear it." "We respect it," Ryan corrected, "but we don't let fear stop us from learning. I would like to volunteer to assist with the demonstration setup." Ryan smiled widely. "That's great, Bront. I could use someone with your logical mind to help coordinate." As Bront left, Ryan returned to his preparations. 2 weeks until the demonstration. He could hardly wait to see his students' faces when they witnessed their first volcanic eruption, even an artificial one. He suspected it would be a day they never forgot. The observation dome had been transformed. Normally used for astronomy classes, the large circular room now hosted a very different kind of celestial event. In the center stood Ryan's creation, a cone-shaped structure 2 meters tall, built from heat-resistant materials and painted to look like a mountain. Around it, protective barriers formed a semicircle, though Ryan knew they were unnecessary. Behind those barriers, monitoring equipment blinked and hummed, recording temperature, air quality, and chemical composition. Ryan arrived early, carrying containers of chemicals and wearing what he considered normal work clothes, jeans, a t-shirt, and safety goggles pushed up on his forehead. He whistled while he worked, mixing solutions and checking measurements. Everything needed to be perfect for his students' first real volcanic experience. The door opened, and students began filing in. Each wore protective equipment that made Ryan want to laugh, though he held it in politely. Pris had on a full environmental suit with triple-layered ear protection. Dira wore a heat-resistant wrap that covered most of her feathers. Even Brant, despite being made of crystal that could withstand high temperatures, had attached reflective panels to his body. "You all look very prepared," Ryan said diplomatically. "Professor Cole, you are not wearing adequate protection," Pris squeaked through her suit's speaker system. "The safety guidelines recommend full body coverage." "I'll be fine," Ryan assured her, pulling his goggles down over his eyes. "I've done this in a t-shirt hundreds of times." More students entered, and Ryan noticed that roughly half the class had positioned themselves as far from the volcano as physically possible, while still remaining in the dome. Some pressed against the back wall. A few had even positioned themselves near the emergency exits. 2 security officers stood by the door, their expressions serious. Dean Valeris watched from a monitor in his office, his face visible on a screen mounted to the wall. He had declined to attend in person, citing administrative responsibilities. Ryan clapped his hands together. "All right, everyone, let's begin. What you're about to see is a chemical reaction that simulates a volcanic eruption. I'm going to explain each step as we go." He held up a container of orange powder. "This is ammonium dichromate. When heated, it decomposes into nitrogen gas, water vapor, and chromium oxide. The reaction is exothermic, meaning it produces heat and light." Pris raised a shaky paw. "How much heat?" "About 600 degrees Celsius at the peak." Several students backed up another step. Ryan poured the powder into the top of the cone, forming a small pile at the summit. Then he pulled out a long strip of magnesium. "This is our ignition source. Magnesium burns very hot and very bright, hot enough to start our reaction." He placed the magnesium strip into the powder, letting one end stick out like a fuse. "Everyone ready?" No one responded. The room had fallen completely silent except for the hum of monitoring equipment and the nervous rustling of Dira's feathers. Ryan struck a lighter and touched the flame to the magnesium strip. The metal caught, instantly, burning with a brilliant white light that made several students cry out in alarm. The flame traveled down the strip toward the powder pile at the volcano's summit. Ryan stepped back casually, his hands in his pockets, watching with the relaxed attention of someone observing a sunset. "Here it comes," he said, his voice filled with genuine excitement. The magnesium reached the powder, and for a moment nothing happened. Then smoke began rising from the cone's top, first white, then gray, then darker. The powder started to glow, a dull red that rapidly brightened to orange. Pris's sensitive ears picked up the sound first, a low hissing that grew louder by the second. Her eyes went wide behind her protective visor. "It is about to erupt," Brant announced, his logical mind processing the visual data even as his crystals flickered with what might have been excitement or fear. The volcano erupted. Orange foam burst from the summit in a spectacular fountain, shooting upward nearly a meter before cascading down the sides of the cone. The substance glowed bright orange, looking exactly like flowing lava. It hissed and bubbled as it moved, releasing clouds of steam and smoke. Small sparks flew off the main flow, dancing through the air like fireflies. The sound filled the dome, a roaring, hissing combination that seemed impossibly loud. Heat radiated outward in waves, and monitoring equipment began beeping as temperature sensors registered the change. That was when the screaming started. Pris bolted for the exit, her environmental suit making her movements clumsy but desperate. Dira's feathers exploded outward in full alarm display, and she launched herself toward the ceiling, instinct overriding reason. 3 other students ran for the doors, triggering proximity alarms that added their shrill beeping to the chaos. "Everyone calm down," Ryan called out, but his voice was lost in the noise. The security officers moved forward, hands on their communication devices, ready to call for evacuation. Dean Valeris's face on the monitor had turned a pale yellow color that suggested full panic. But the eruption continued, indifferent to the chaos it caused. Orange foam flowed steadily down all sides of the cone, pooling at the base. The glow was mesmerizing, pulsing with heat and light. Smoke billowed upward, caught by the dome's ventilation system that roared to life at maximum capacity. Ryan stood beside his creation, completely at ease, narrating what was happening. You can see how the chromium oxide produces that orange color, very similar to real lava. The nitrogen gas creates pressure that forces the material upward and outward, just like magma rising through a volcanic vent. Bront had not moved. Despite every instinct probably telling him to flee, the crystalline student remained frozen in place, his entire structure focused on the eruption. Next to him, 2 other brave or foolish students also stayed, their eyes wide but their positions firm. The eruption lasted 90 seconds, though it felt much longer to everyone present. Gradually, the flow decreased, the orange glow dimmed, and the hissing quieted. Within 2 minutes of ignition, the reaction had completed itself, leaving behind a cone covered in cooling orange residue that looked remarkably like hardened lava. Ryan turned to his remaining students with a huge grin. So, who wants to see that again? No one answered. Half the class had fled into the corridor. The other half stared at him like he had lost his mind. Dean Valeris's face disappeared from the monitor screen, apparently unable to watch anymore. But Ryan just kept smiling. In his mind, the demonstration had been a complete success. The ventilation system continued its loud work, clearing smoke from the observation dome. Ryan stood next to his volcano using a scanner to check the temperature of the cooling residue. He seemed completely unaware of the chaos he had created, focused entirely on collecting data from the experiment. In the corridor outside, Pris sat against a wall, having finally removed her helmet. Her fur stood out in all directions and her ears still trembled. A medical technician, a gentle Vorson with 4 arms and kind eyes, checked her vital signs. "Your hearts are racing," the technician said softly, "but you are not injured, just frightened." "It was so loud," Pris whispered, "and the heat. I could feel it through my suit." "You are safe now." 3 other students received similar treatment nearby. One had hyperventilated so badly his breathing apparatus had to be adjusted. Another had pulled a muscle while running and now sat with an ice pack on her leg. All of them kept glancing at the dome's entrance like the volcano might chase them down the hallway. Inside the dome, Bront approached Ryan carefully. His crystalline form still flickered, processing what he had witnessed. "Professor Cole, may I ask a question?" "Of course," Ryan said, making notes on his tablet. "How many times have you performed this demonstration?" "Oh, I don't know exactly. Maybe 300 or 400 times. I did it every semester when I taught on Earth and often at public events too." Bront's crystals went completely still. "You have witnessed that reaction hundreds of times?" "Sure, gets better every time, doesn't it? The chemistry is just beautiful." "But the heat, the noise, the unpredictability?" "It's not really unpredictable," Ryan interrupted gently. "The reaction follows very specific rules. If you know the chemistry, you know exactly what will happen. That's the whole point of science." Dira, who had eventually come down from her panicked flight to the ceiling, approached on shaky legs. "Professor, on my world we study such phenomena from great distances, through telescopes and remote probes. Why would anyone get close to such danger?" Ryan looked at both of them with genuine confusion. "Because that's how you really learn. Reading about volcanoes is fine, but seeing one, feeling the heat, hearing the sounds, that gives you understanding that no textbook can provide." Security had filed an incident report. Dean Valeris had called an immediate meeting. Ryan cleaned up his equipment and sealed the chemical containers, whistling the entire time, before heading to the administrative offices. The dean's office felt cold when Ryan entered. Valeris sat behind his desk, his skin a mottled pattern of stress colors. 3 other administrators joined the meeting via video screens, their various faces all showing concern. "Dr. Cole," Dean Valeris began, his voice tight with controlled frustration, 5 students required medical attention. 7 fled the demonstration entirely. Security nearly initiated an emergency evacuation. The entire dome's ventilation system is still running at maximum capacity. "But everyone is okay, right?" Ryan asked. "No actual injuries?" "That is not the point." "Then what is the point?" Dean Valeris pulled up a video recording of the experiment. Ryan watched himself standing calmly beside the erupting volcano, while chaos erupted around him. When he saw students fleeing in terror, he winced slightly. "I admit, I didn't expect that strong a reaction," Ryan said. You created a contained volcanic eruption in an educational facility, one of the other administrators said sharply. What did you expect? On Earth, students think this is exciting, not terrifying. They usually cheer. The room fell silent. Finally, Dean Valera spoke. Earth students watch volcanic simulations and cheer. Well, yeah, it's one of the coolest demonstrations in basic chemistry. We do this at science fairs for 12-year-olds. 12-year-olds, Valeris repeated weakly. Children. Ryan pulled out his tablet and showed them videos from Earth. Children gathered around homemade volcanoes, laughing and cheering as foam erupted. Teachers led students through the same demonstration he had just performed. Everyone safe and happy. Parents took pictures while young humans grinned beside their bubbling creations. The administrators watched in stunned silence. Your species allows juveniles to handle exothermic reactions? One asked. With proper supervision, yes. How else would they learn? You can't understand fire by reading about it. You have to see it, work with it, respect it. Dean Valeris rubbed his face with long fingers. Dr. Cole, I think I'm beginning to understand the problem. What you consider basic educational practice, the rest of the galaxy considers extreme risk-taking. Is it, though? Ryan asked seriously. Look, I ran all the calculations. The barriers I set up could have contained a reaction 10 times as strong. The ventilation system was more than adequate. The temperature never got high enough to damage any equipment. The only danger was people panicking and hurting themselves while running away. Brant's voice came from the doorway. He is correct. Everyone turned. The crystalline student stood in the entrance, unauthorized but clearly determined to speak. Brant, this is a private meeting, Dean Valeris said. I calculated the safety margins, Brant continued, walking in anyway. Professor Cole's demonstration had enormous error buffers built in. The protective barriers were unnecessary. The evacuation protocols were excessive. By any objective measure, we were never in actual danger. But it felt dangerous, Valeris countered. Yes, Brant agreed, because we have no experience with such phenomena. Professor Cole has survived hundreds of these reactions. He understands them at a level we cannot grasp by merely reading. Perhaps that is precisely why we should learn from him. Ryan looked at Brant with surprise and appreciation. The student had grasped something important. Dean Valeris sighed deeply, his skin slowly returning to its normal blue color. Dr. Cole, I am not going to forbid your teaching methods. However, I am requiring additional psychological support staff for your future demonstrations. And warning labels on your class descriptions. Fair enough, Ryan agreed. And Dr. Cole, Valeris added. Perhaps next time warn us exactly how dramatic it will appear. Your casual description of safe educational demonstration did not adequately prepare anyone for a room filled with smoke, fire, and flowing orange material. Ryan grinned sheepishly. Yeah, I can see that now, sorry. As he left the office, Brant walked beside him. Professor Cole, when will you perform the demonstration again? You want to see it again? I want to understand it properly. Fear prevented clear observation the first time. I would like another opportunity. Ryan's grin widened. Now that's the spirit. 1 week after the volcano demonstration, Ryan prepared for class expecting empty seats. He had received transfer request notifications from 3 students and assumed others would simply stop attending. Instead, when he entered the classroom, every seat was filled, including Pris sitting in her usual front row position. Ryan stopped in surprise. I honestly expected fewer of you. Pris's ears twitched, but she spoke clearly. I thought about dropping your class, Professor Cole. I spent 2 days considering it. But then I realized something. I have been afraid my entire life. Afraid of loud noises, sudden movements, unexpected events. If I run from fear now, I will run from it forever. That's very brave of you, Pris. I do not feel brave. I feel terrified. But I am here anyway. Dira adjusted her feathers, which had finally returned to their normal position after a week. I have a question, Professor. On my world, we have no volcanic activity. Our planet cooled completely millions of years ago. I have only read about such phenomena in academic texts. What you showed us last week, I have never experienced anything like it. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? Ryan asked. I do not know yet, Dira admitted. My hearts have never beaten that fast. My species is not designed for such stimulation. But I keep thinking about it. The colors, the heat, the way the material flowed. It was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Bronze crystals glowed softly. I have spent the week analyzing my response. Fear is illogical when actual danger does not exist. Yet I felt it anyway. I find this discrepancy fascinating. Other students shared similar thoughts. What had started as pure terror had transformed into something more complex. Curiosity mixed with fear. Wonder tangled with anxiety. They had witnessed something far outside their normal experience, and their minds kept returning to it. Ryan felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with volcanic heat. This was why he taught, this exact moment when fear began transforming into understanding. I want to propose something, he said. In 2 weeks, I'm going to perform the demonstration again, but this time I want volunteers to help me prepare it. You'll learn the chemistry, measure the materials, and see exactly how controlled the reaction is. Then you'll understand why I'm not afraid of it. Hands and paws and appendages rose slowly around the room. Not everyone, but more than half the class. Pris's paw trembled as she raised it. I want to help. Are you sure? Ryan asked gently. No, but I want to try anyway. Over the next week, Ryan's office became a gathering place. Students who had never voluntarily approached a professor's office now came in small groups, asking questions about Earth's geology. Bront brought calculations about magma pressure and chamber dynamics. Dira researched thermal patterns in atmospheric convection. Even students from other classes began stopping by, drawn by rumors of the human professor who created artificial volcanoes. A student from the xenobiology department, a tall Kryn named Lester with scales that changed color with his mood, knocked on Ryan's door one afternoon. Professor Cole, I heard about your demonstration. I wanted to ask, does Earth really have over 1,000 active volcanoes? About 2,500, Ryan confirmed, though only 50 or so erupt in any given year. Lester's scales flickered from green to orange, indicating surprise. And humans live among these hazards? Sure, some cities are built right next to them. My hometown in Washington state is near 5 major volcanoes. Do humans not fear them? Ryan considered the question carefully. We respect them. We study them. We have warning systems and evacuation plans. But fear? No, not really. They're just part of our environment, like weather or seasons. This is why they call Earth a death world, Lester said quietly. Not because it is more dangerous than other planets, but because humans do not recognize the danger. Maybe, Ryan agreed. Or maybe we just have a different relationship with risk. The day before the second demonstration, Pris stayed after class. She clutched a data pad filled with notes, her paws shaking slightly. Professor Cole, I have been researching human psychology. Humans have a much higher tolerance for risk than most species. Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, is smaller relative to your brain size than in most other intelligent species. I've heard that theory, Ryan said. This means you literally cannot understand how frightening your demonstration was for us. Your brain does not process danger the same way ours do. Ryan set down the chemical container he was organizing. You're right, Pris, I didn't fully grasp that until last week. When I saw you all running, it surprised me. But that's exactly why this demonstration is valuable. I can show you that some things that seem dangerous really aren't. Or you can show us that we are capable of facing danger we thought impossible, Pris said softly. That too. The next day, the observation dome was prepared again, but this time the atmosphere felt different. Students arrived with curiosity instead of just fear. The protective barriers remained, but several students positioned themselves closer to the center. Dean Valeris attended in person this time, standing near the back but present nonetheless. Word had spread through the university. Students from other departments filed in, filling every available space. The astronomy professor brought her entire class. Security staff who were off duty came to watch. Even some of the maintenance workers found excuses to be nearby. Ryan stood beside his volcano with Bront, Pris, and Dira, his 3 teaching assistants for the day, each wearing simple safety goggles instead of full environmental suits. We are going to perform the demonstration together, Ryan announced to the crowd. Bront will explain the mathematics. Dira will discuss the thermal dynamics. Pris will detail the chemical composition, and I'll light the match. Pris looked at the volcano, then at Ryan, then back at the volcano. Her ears trembled, but her voice stayed steady when she began speaking. Ammonium dichromate is an inorganic compound with the formula NH4 plus 2Cr2O7. When heated, it undergoes a decomposition reaction that is exothermic, meaning it releases energy in the form of heat and light. Her paws still shook while she held her notes, but she did not run. She did not hide. She stood in the front row and taught her fellow students about the chemistry of volcanic simulation. Ryan listened with pride, knowing that whatever happened next, his students had already learned the most important lesson. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to face it anyway. The observation dome had transformed into something resembling a theater. Seats arranged in careful rows gave everyone a clear view of the volcano at the center. Emergency stations stood ready at strategic points. Medical staff waited nearby and the ventilation system hummed at standby. But the atmosphere was different this time. Anticipation replaced pure fear. Students talked in excited whispers instead of nervous silence. Ryan checked his equipment one final time while his 3 student assistants reviewed their notes. Pris kept touching her ears, a nervous habit, but she remained steady. Dira's feathers lay smooth against her body, showing calm rather than alarm. Brant's crystalline structure glowed with what Ryan had learned to recognize as focused concentration. Dean Valeris stood near the back, his skin a healthy blue color. Next to him, professors from 4 other departments had gathered. Students filled every available seat and some stood along the walls. Nearly 200 beings from dozens of species had come to watch. Quite a turnout, Ryan murmured. Word spreads quickly when a human creates controlled explosions for education, Valeris said dryly, though his tone held amusement rather than concern. Ryan walked to the center of the dome and raised his hands for attention. The crowd quieted immediately. Thank you all for coming. Last week this demonstration caused quite a reaction. A few nervous laughs rippled through the audience. Today we're going to do it again, but with a difference. My students will guide you through every step. They'll explain the science, the safety measures, and why this reaction, while dramatic, is completely controlled. Brant, would you like to start? The crystalline student moved forward, his body refracting light across the dome's curved walls. His voice carried clearly, enhanced by the room's acoustics. Volcanic eruptions appear chaotic, but they follow precise mathematical principles. Pressure, temperature, chemical composition. All these factors interact in predictable ways. Today's demonstration uses a specific quantity of ammonium dichromate. Based on this amount, I can tell you exactly how hot the reaction will become, how long it will last, and how far the material will flow. He pulled up equations on the dome's display screens, walking the audience through calculations that proved his points. What seemed like uncontrolled chaos was actually chemistry following laws as reliable as gravity. Dira spoke next, her musical voice explaining thermodynamics and heat distribution. She had studied Earth's actual volcanoes and compared them to the simulation they were about to witness. Real volcanic eruptions on Earth reach temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. Today's demonstration will peak at approximately 600 degrees, contained entirely within the reaction zone. The heat you feel from your seats will be minimal, comparable to standing near a cooking fire. When Pris's turn came, she stepped forward on shaky legs. Her voice started soft but grew stronger as she spoke about the chemistry she had spent 2 weeks studying. The orange glow you will see comes from chromium oxide. The hissing sound is nitrogen gas being released. The foam effect results from gases expanding rapidly. Each element of this reaction has a scientific explanation. There is no mystery, no magic, only chemistry. She paused, looking at her fellow students. Last week, I ran from this demonstration. My species has sensitive hearing, and the sound frightened me more than anything I had experienced before. But running did not make me braver. It did not increase my understanding. So today I am staying. I am watching. I am learning. The audience fell completely silent. Pris's honesty touched something in them. Ryan stepped forward with his chemicals. All right, everyone. Watch carefully. Brant, start the countdown based on your calculations. Ignition in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ryan lit the magnesium strip. It caught with that brilliant white flame, burning steadily toward the powder pile at the volcano summit. This time, Ryan had added a camera system that projected close-up views onto the dome's screens, allowing everyone to see details they had missed during the chaos of the first demonstration. The magnesium reached the powder. Smoke began to rise, first white wisps, then thicker gray clouds. The powder started glowing, its color shifting from red to orange to bright yellow-orange. Students leaned forward in their seats, watching with focus instead of fear. The volcano erupted right on schedule, exactly as Brant had predicted. Orange foam fountained upward, the material flowing down the cone's sides in patterns that matched Dira's thermal models. The hissing sound filled the dome, but this time students did not flee. They watched, mesmerized by the beauty of chemistry in action. The glow pulsed and flowed, creating shadows that danced across the dome's walls. Heat radiated outward in waves, noticeable but not overwhelming. The cameras captured every detail. Bubbles forming in the foam, small sparks dancing through the air, the way the material moved like thick liquid. This time, no one screamed. No one ran. A few students gripped their seats tightly, fighting instinct, but they remained. They watched the entire 90-second reaction from beginning to end. When the eruption subsided and the glow began to fade, the dome remained silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Others joined. Within seconds, the entire audience applauded, the sound echoing off the dome's curved surface. Ryan felt his throat tighten with unexpected emotion. He had created hundreds of chemical volcanoes, but none had ever received applause before. Dean Valeris approached after the crowd began to disperse. "Dr. Cole, I owe you an apology. I did not understand what you were trying to teach, and what's that? That knowledge defeats fear. That understanding creates courage. These students did not become braver by avoiding danger. They became braver by facing it in a safe environment. That's why I teach," Ryan said simply. "I have a proposal. We would like to expand your program. Other professors are interested in incorporating experiential learning into their courses. We want to create an applied risk education department, and we want you to lead it." Ryan blinked in surprise. "Really?" "Your methods work, Dr. Cole. Unconventional, yes. Alarming to those unfamiliar with Deathworld pedagogies, absolutely. But effective." Pris approached with Bront and Dira beside her. "Professor Cole, I have a question about next semester's offerings." "What's that?" "I saw you are teaching seismology and earthquake mechanics. Does that course also include hands-on demonstrations?" Ryan grinned. "Absolutely. We'll be using a seismic simulator to recreate earthquake effects. Will it be frightening? Probably." "Good," Pris said, her ears standing straight up with determination. "I am enrolling." Dira ruffled her feathers in agreement. "As am I. If we survived a volcano, we can survive earthquakes." Bront's crystals glowed bright. "I calculate that Professor Cole's teaching methods, while initially alarming, produce superior learning outcomes. I will also enroll." As his students walked away discussing next semester, Ryan looked up through the dome's transparent ceiling at the stars beyond. He had come to this university hoping to teach aliens about Earth's geology. Instead, he had taught them something more important, that courage lived not in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to understand what frightened them. And sometimes, the best way to understand something was to create a small, safe version of it and watch it erupt.